Cool. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to iCoach Nutrition Radio. Today, I have a very special guest, as all of my clients that I have the pleasure of bringing on the podcast are special guests. But super excited to talk with Joelle today. One, because I've always loved that name. It's been like the name that we said we were going to name our daughter forever. So we'll see if that actually carries out. But two, I actually got to meet her in person for the first time after like 2 years of working together, coaching like kind of remotely here. So got to work out together. That was awesome. And now I'm getting to bring her on the podcast to kind of share her journey of us working together. And so without further ado, Joelle, what is going on, my friend? How are you?
Hi. Nice to see you again, Justin. I feel like I
Yes.
just saw you. It was like a few weeks ago, like a week or two ago, or something like that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's been recent, especially
yeah,
for 2 years of not
yeah. I
seeing.
know, right? And even before we actually physically met, we caught up like a few weeks even before that, and that was really the first time that we'd ever interacted face to face. So that
Yeah.
was over Zoom. So that's pretty interesting. Also, first off, I want to apologize for any kind of sirens you might hear. I currently am in Jersey, and there's always sirens outside, so I apologize for that.
No, all good. The audience will understand. We're all good. So, awesome. So, I guess first off, let's kick it off with like just give the listeners kind of a little bit more background on you and kind of like what you do from a background standpoint there, like with work and things like that. You just shared where you live here. Let's start with that, and then we'll kind of take it back to kind of the beginning of our journey before we started working together.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a physical therapist, but I specialize in sports and particularly in soccer, women's soccer. I'm originally from Dallas, and I was working in Dallas for a very long time. And I've always specialized in sports and always been an athlete my whole life. And, nutrition and working out has always been at the forefront of kind of my personal priorities. Um, and I was very heavily involved in like academia especially after PT school, and then like doing a sports residency and specialize in all that stuff. And then went straight into working in a very fast paced environment, and then into an environment that was very much involved with professional soccer. Um, and so throughout the course of like my whole life, like I said, always been really into nutrition and working out and things like that. But as I really approached my 30s, I started just noticing like changes in my body, but not even just like weight and stuff like that, but more like aesthetics with my skin. I started just noticing yeah, like different kind of breakouts and things like that. And then even later after that, I started really having trouble with sleeping. And again, I've always been very into like my nutrition and working out and things like that. So I was just kind of at a loss really. And I started thinking about it, and I started thinking how what's something that I could really what's kind of like a low hanging fruit here, like what can I maybe address to make a difference, and how can I make that difference. And just through like Instagram, I saw an ad or something. I don't know what it was, but you came through my Instagram, and I thought, oh well, this guy seems cool, because I really enjoyed like your messaging and things like that about approaching it from the kind of human side of things, um, and kind of addressing more like habits and things like that. So I thought, well, let's like give this a shot and see how this will come about. And so I reached out to you, and we had like one conversation, I think, and you seemed like right in the line of kind of the way that I wanted to approach my um, kind of health goals. But at that time, my health goals weren't even like to be super cut or anything. My health goals were literally, I need to sleep because I have a very fast paced life. And I was waking up at 3, 4 a.m. every night and could not go back to sleep. And I was wide awake. So I knew my sleep needed to be adjusted. And I knew that yeah, like I just felt like something nutritionally needed to be addressed, in order to even kind of help out any kind of hormonal issues or really whatever was going on. Because, like I said, like growing up my whole life, playing soccer 2 times a day, barely showered, especially in high school. I went to an all girls high school in Dallas. So like never showered. And my whole life never had skin issues. Never. Until I was turning like 27, 28. And so again, like I just knew there was something more, right? So yeah, so when I first reached out to you, it wasn't really it wasn't performance based goals at all. It was really like I need help. Like something's going on with my body, you know? So that's how I first came about to find you.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so crazy thinking about, you hear so many people like bash social media, right? And trust me, there's definitely a time and a place for that for sure. But I also love social media so much, especially as an online coach and just seeing like things like this happen. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I would have never met you in a million years if it wasn't for
No,
social media. So
no, not at all.
I think that part of it's awesome. But so we have these issues come up, we connect, and what were kind of the steps from there? So like we start going through the initial assessment process, right? And what did we kind of start to uncover through that initial assessment process?
Yeah. So what I really found out was that I just wasn't even eating enough. And again, like I'm someone that has always thought of myself as like well versed in nutrition and stuff like that. And it's like I didn't really have poor eating. Uh, like I wasn't eating bad, but I wasn't eating enough, is what we first found out. Because what you first had me do was just track and just log like what I've been eating throughout, I don't know, like a week or 2 weeks or something like that. And yeah, that was the first thing that we found, is that I just wasn't even eating like at all enough.
Well, and so like obviously you were having some, what we reference as like negative like biofeedback,
Mhm.
or by these negative symptoms, right, in terms of your body, some of the things you mentioned there. But I think also, you being an athlete, and this is very consistent. I mean, it was the same with me as an athlete, and it's the same thing that I run into with pretty much every athlete that I ever work with or have a discussion with. And that
Mhm.
is that you hadn't really like tracked
Yeah.
necessarily, right? So from like
Yeah.
an awareness standpoint, you really had no idea, calories or macros or really anything in terms of the tracking side of the equation, not even from like a habit-based perspective, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much just focused on like trying to eat well, right? But no, I never really tracked. But in that same mindset, like trying to eat well, like you're so ingrained, especially being a female, like you're so ingrained of eating like this tiny amount. And you think, oh, just be like I'm eating, chicken and I'm eating veggies and I'm eating like rice or something. Like, why am I not feeling well? Well, it's like, yeah, you're eating fine, but you're actually not even eating enough, right? And I know we've talked about this before, and I've posted on it in your Facebook group before about how um yeah, just how about the stigma, especially being female, and then especially being athletes still, like there's just this constant conversation about having to fit this mold, but in actuality it doesn't really work that way. So just kind of you've you've really helped me, which I always knew was the case, but I guess going through it personally, it's really enlightened me in terms of just how we continue how we should really continue to try to change the dialogue, especially for athletes, regardless of gender.
yeah, I love that. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I think like if you think about the awareness that's built through, investing in yourself and reaching out, and I mean that's like the first step is already so scary, right? So it's like for you to be vulnerable and to reach out to a coach and like want to like I think you as a PT and like coaching others in a
Mhm.
way, it's kind of the same. So you see the value in it.
Mhm.
But I think that, that first step, like you have to commit, that's commendable in and of itself, right? Because a
Yeah.
lot of people are scared to like put themselves out there and to ask for help. And I think that like, it's one of those things where you're not gonna, like, you're probably gonna keep doing the things that like culture told us in terms of like, I'm eating healthy, right? But not like you can sit here and eat the best quality food in the world, follow, let's say, like a paleo diet, right? And eat super healthy, super clean. But like if you're an athlete or if you're somebody that's super active and you're under eating, right? If you're not eating
Right.
enough, and then even more so, you start having these negative symptoms, like
Yeah.
you're probably not going to actually start making changes until you have the negative symptoms, right? Because you're
Yeah.
going to be like, oh, I'm fine. You're not going to track, you're not going to build the awareness, you're not going to know. But then it's kind of you wait too long, right? These symptoms start to happen, they start to build up, and then you're forced with kind of one of those scenarios where it's like, I have no choice but to figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then especially I know like for me, my symptoms, I don't know why, but I just kind of had a feeling like nutrition was going to go a long way. But I don't think a lot of people think that way, which is kind of, I wish more people did, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I think you just being in the health, space, the health atmosphere here, right? Like we're a lot more health conscious, right? Just
Mhm.
because we're in it a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, like there's a lot of people that wouldn't go to nutrition first if they're experiencing some of these issues here. And I think that's a lot. I mean, not to dive into that super deep here, but I think that's another really great discussion that could be brought up, which is how many people are overthinking it, thinking that it's some crazy complex issue, right? This crazy hormonal issue or digestive issue, and not to discount, there's definitely those issues out there for sure. But a lot of people that are, hearing these hormone experts on Instagram or whatever, and thinking that they have something a lot more complex than what it actually is. Like there are plenty of times where people think that they have something super complex going on, and really what it is like they're just not being basic, right? They're not doing the basic habits
Right.
consistently.
Right.
And so you gotta look at yourself in the mirror. You gotta have a coach or whatever it is to kind of have that 10,000 foot view. You gotta start to assess. You gotta start to build awareness. Because if you don't do that, it's going to be really hard for you to like actually start to identify what it is that you need to change and work on.
Yeah. And like you said, like those diagnoses and things like that, like they are real, but like typically what I've found is that a lot of these symptoms and diagnoses are years of buildup. And so, yeah, like what's the foundational thing? Like, yeah, some things might be contributing to that, but like if you just maybe addressed even like your nutrition, lots of good things can happen, you know? So, because I know when I like after looking back and really considering a lot of things, especially after starting to work with you, yeah, that's what I found was like this wasn't just an overnight thing. This was over the course of my career as I started being like more in depth in my work life, which is amazing because I love what I do. But it definitely was over the course of that because I can see like I can see a transgression through that. So it's not, it's not just a one day thing, but what are your habits that have contributed to that, and in that same note too, like I think a lot of people need to have the understanding too that they have the control to make a difference. Because I think especially once people get slapped on these diagnoses, and I see it in my work too, you know, people will get told, "Oh, you'll never be able to do this again." Well, I don't necessarily think that's true, like you have the autonomy to look at what you're doing in life and make adjustments um, to help you get back to doing what you want to do, whether it's adjusting things in one way or another. But I think that's important too for people to understand that you do have the control um, to make a change. It might take a while, um, but it can happen.
Yeah. Well, I think especially, more than ever in 2021, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
resources that are out there, I mean, it's incredible. Like think about
Yeah.
100 years ago and some of these issues coming up, like you wouldn't have the resources you have now,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, I mean, you made a great point there in that, and this is what I really try to be super transparent with every client that comes on from the very beginning. I'm like, look, like this is going to be at least like a bare minimum 6 month process. Like for some clients I work with, it's years and years. And there's
Mhm.
no timeline on this. Ultimately, like when you graduate the program, we want to make sure that this is the last time that you have to invest in yourself. This is I mean, there's nothing wrong with continuing to hire coaches. I'm all about
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
but you should feel 100% confident in have developed the skill set of nutrition.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I think that that's something, like, as you've learned, it's like, it's something that you can't, it's not going to happen in a one-time consult, right?
Mhm.
I mean, think about how many coaches or RDs that are out there that like they have like one and done sessions. Like, it's like you come, they throw as much information at you as you possibly can, and that's it. Especially like in the clinical setting, they come bedside and boom, you have diabetes. They splatter all this out. Here's a diabetes packet, and go figure it out. And it's like, the accountability is everything. Like, the timeline is everything. Like, it's got to be a journey. It can't just
Yeah.
be like, a quick fix there. And
Yeah.
so I think that's something people really have to be ready for, though, right? I mean, you have to
Yeah.
be ready and wanting to make that change. And I guess that brings me to a question for you, is like, do you think that, like, I mean, surely when you first started, you did not plan on us working together as long as we have. I would have, if I had to guess.
No, I actually didn't even realize it's been so long. Has it really been that long?
It's been I was trying to, let's see. So
It's easily been 2 years,
yeah, it's been
if not just under 2 years.
May May 2000. Oh, there it is. No, sorry. September 2018.
Okay.
So not I guess not quite 2 years, right? Or
Um,
yeah,
yes, it's been
yeah,
over two
yeah, over
years.
2 years, over 2 years.
But I would have never thought that. And then no, I never would have thought that this would be, I would not, no, no, I wouldn't have. No, simple answer, no, not at all. And you know what's interesting about that? Well, wait, were you gonna ask me another question?
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think the thing that's so important about that, and again, the timeline's different for everybody, but I think like you've gone through like now multiple like quote unquote seasons of life,
Mhm.
right? Like through this journey, and I think that's a really big part of nutrition and these habits and all of these things, because like when you can put all your focus into your nutrition and fitness, like you can, it's really easy to be consistent. But like life happens, right? That's what we always hear, and that's what throws you off. That's what makes you get out of your routines, right? And so to
Yeah.
be able to navigate through these different seasons of life and realize like, hey, there's going to be times where I'm not going to be perfect, but something is always going to be better than nothing. That is so powerful to be able to take with you for the rest of your life.
Oh, absolutely. And I've been recently telling you that I I really only feel up until very recently, um, like actually ready to change my habits in terms of logging food. Because I've told you that, yeah, I've always kind of done it, but I've always kind of did it begrudgingly, like kind of like, ugh, this is so annoying. Like I hate this kind of thing. But it's honestly kind of taken me this long to finally change my mindset in terms of, no, like this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm enjoying to do and this is getting me to what that next goal is, which is actually now more like aesthetic and performance based, right? So in the past it's been more so just it involved around actual like health and getting to a point of, I think, not only physically feeling ready, because I think physically I've felt ready for a very long time, but I think mentally I haven't been. And talking about life, like my life has drastically changed in this past year, especially right before the pandemic. I moved to literally the epicenter of the pandemic for our country. I moved there 1 week before the whole country shut down. Um, and so really even through the course of that time frame, I mean, I know even one time I think I was pretty down in talking to you, and I think you even just said you should talk to someone. and and I know that, right? And like that's something that's part of what I do now too in terms of like health and stuff like that. And so, and I say that because, like you said, there's no time frame, right? Like people have these time frames in, especially with templates and stuff like that, and all this like access. But in actuality, you really need to make sure you are ready, because if you're not, it's not going to really go anywhere. And I've kind of experienced that because I know you and I have gone through like these ebbs and flows. Um, but yeah, it's been this long, and I'd have to say that I finally actually feel prepared like mentally to make it part of just like my lifestyle in terms of logging because
Yeah.
logging is terrible, but I
No,
don't mind
I
it.
love it. I think I mean, everything you said, I mean, there's so many nuggets from what you just said, but yeah, I mean, I think like there's so many phases to all this, and not just with nutrition and fitness, but just like life in general, right? In terms
Mhm.
of like being ready to become the person who you want to become, right? Like, because that's really what it is, right? We're working towards our future self. When you set goals for the new year, you have to ask yourself, what is it that I have to do, right, to become my future self? Because
Yeah,
the goals that are accomplished a year from now or 3 years from now or 5 years now or whatever, like you're not the same person, right, when
yeah,
you start and when you're there. And that journey, right, that's what builds you into that person who you want to become.
yeah,
And so I think for you, if we truly think about kind of that triangle of awareness, if you will, it's like you came to me, and even if you had aesthetic and performance goals, we had to address the health
hmm,
based goals and
yep,
habits first,
yep,
right? And then regardless of when the timeline is, once that stuff's starting to get to get carried out and to start to establish itself and get more consistent, and we're not having the biofeedback issues and the habits are building, then it's like awesome, like our health's in a really good spot. Cool, now we can start to attack some of these aesthetic based goals or performance based goals. And I don't know. I think the one of the biggest takeaways for people that are listening here is that like you can sit here and have like the perfect plan. I mean, 2020 is a perfect example of that. You could have set your goals for 2020, right? And then COVID happened and it rocked your world,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
you can have the perfect plan, but you're gonna have to kind of like roll with the punches and bob and weave, as I say. Like you're gonna have to navigate through things.
yeah,
Um, and that's just part of it. But that's just like that's part of the journey. That's what you have to try to fall in love with. Like you can't fight that. Just like with tracking it on my fitness pal, right? Like I in the same way, like I've struggled with doing it. I've like literally for so long battled it. But finally, however many years ago when I started doing that little summer shred thing, I got into the habit of like, cool, I only have to do this 3 months out of the year. All right, I won't I won't bitch and complain about that.
yeah, yeah,
And then,
yeah,
and then I'm like 9 months out of the year, no tracking, like cool, like I
yeah,
can do that.
yeah. And
But
and also to your point earlier that throughout this whole time of working together, I've recently thought I actually do feel very confident in, let's say that if um tomorrow we stopped working with each other for some reason, I have learned so much with working with you that I feel very confident in my abilities to continue all the work that we've done. I'm not saying I'm going to stop working with you, but I'm just saying that I really have learned a lot from you. It really has been, um, whether I realize it or not, uh, it's improved, just like lifestyle habits and things like that. So much so that I feel even more confident just doing recommendations to some of my athletes just based off of the stuff that I've learned through my work with you. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's been great.
that's awesome. I love that. No, I mean, I think you're absolutely right in that. Look, like you are the type of client that like you see the value in wanting to continuously, like if you accomplish a goal, awesome, like now let's set another goal,
Mhm.
right? And so you just going through these phases here, like you're just going through like accomplishing goals and setting new goals, like what we're about to attack here, right? We're rolling through maintenance calories right now, setting us up to really have a really successful diet here for that little summer shred. Like, so I mean, it's just one goal after the next, right? And I think that's a good point for people to remember is that when you work with a coach, I mean, I saw this with coaches I've worked with, even with business coaches, is like a lot of the times you'll come to the coach with one goal, right? Or sometimes it's multiple goals. But once you accomplish those, now it's like awesome. Let's keep building. Let's keep working forward. Let's transition from health to aesthetics to performance or whatever, right? But let's start to really accomplish goals in all of these different pillars of nutrition and fitness when it comes to health, aesthetics, and performance, so that you can understand how to go about accomplishing those goals on your own moving forward as well. Because it's one thing, like if we're talking just simply health, right? Like just habits alone, you're probably going to be in a really good spot, right? But as we start talking about more aesthetic and performance based goals, like when we start looking into like tracking, on like my fitness pal or chronometer, like that's going to start to become more important, because the number side of the equation is going to matter a lot more with aesthetics and performance. And that's just an example. And honestly, that might not even be the best of examples, but hopefully y'all get the point.
Yeah.
But so transitioning a little bit here, as you think about and you kind of reflect over this time period, what are and this can be super specific or it can be more general, but like what are some of like the big like rocks that you feel like you've kind of established? Like if you think like what are like the top 3 to 5 things that you feel like you've learned and now implemented and truly see the value in wanting to do like going forward for the rest of your life? Like what would be some of those things?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first and foremost thing, especially I kind of already touched on it, is something that you and I have recently talked about is no longer, well, really just having a strong sense of control, having a strong sense of control over what I'm doing and what my goals are, and seeing how my body responds to it, and no longer feeling like helpless, right? No longer feeling like a victim to what's going on, kind of thing. And in that same sense, also, like I said, especially being a female, understanding that whatever weight I see on this scale, that's just a data point. It's nothing that like defines me or defines my life, right? It's just something that, oh, okay, if that's the number that I'm seeing there, well, what was the equation beforehand that equaled that number, And then whatever that number is, okay, so then what am I trying to do next? And then how do I adjust that equation? Like no longer seeing it as like something, which I never really took much stock in weight, and I feel very fortunate in myself for that, because I know that's not the case for most people. Um, but really almost feeling like an extreme sense of liberation from really not even considering it as anything detrimental, but other than a data point. So that's been really awesome. And like I said, something that I'm really trying to encourage, especially with the female athletes that I work with, is that, you know, our goals are performance based. That number is a data point regarding our performance goal, you know, and really nothing more than that. It doesn't define you. So I would have to say that's the biggest thing that's been really great for me personally, as of recent. But in terms of actual like tools, um, I mean, really a huge thing that I've learned from you is intuitive eating things, because again, my life can be pretty hectic at times, and I do have to travel quite a bit or live in other places for weeks at a time where I can't cook or can't like um, I get stuff catered to me or whatever. But it's been great to have the tools of intuitive eating, something as simple as like the athlete's plate. That's been really cool to learn more about. And like, again, that's a simple tool that I can now recommend to my athletes who are on the go or something like that. Um, that'd be a tool. And then recently, I've already touched on, is um, focusing a lot more on habits as part of like who I am as an individual, and less as like a chore that I have to do. Kind of trying to establish like healthier relationships with the habits to help me get to my goals. That's been something I've been uh, really happy about shifting recently. Um, that's kind of all the ones I can think about right now.
Yeah, no, those are all great. I love it. As you're going through that first point there, I was even thinking to myself, I'm like, knowing like, growing up as an athlete, especially as a female, as you've, brought up now multiple times, it's like you in the position that you're at working with these athletes that, again, if you see them following, I don't know, the diet of the week, right? Or trying to, do severe calorie restriction or whatever. We just got to like realize that guys, like, or gals, we're trying to be athletes here, right? So it's like, if you have the goals of like aesthetics and you want to go stand on a stage at a bikini competition or physique competition or whatever, like that's probably going to require severe restriction, right?
Right,
It's going
right.
to, that aesthetic goal, that's one side of the triangle of awareness here, right? And then the performance goal is on the complete opposite side of it,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So we can't, going back to what you were saying earlier, it's like if your goal is to be the best athlete that you possibly can be and to really optimize performance and recovery, you're not going to be following some crazy strict diet that has you in a calorie deficit and all of these things, because that, like, you're literally going in a complete opposite direction. So you've got to identify, what is it that I'm, in search of here? What is it that I'm focused on? Is it performance or is it aesthetics? Because those are two completely opposite goals.
Mhm.
With that said, I loved being an athlete, and I try to still be an athlete in my own head, I guess. But it's like a lot of the times when we have kind of a lot of the athlete mindset, our body composition can be a kind of a byproduct
Yeah,
of the
absolutely.
performance-based goals, which I love that.
Absolutely.
So all about that, and not to say you can't improve your body composition through focusing on performance-based goals, because you absolutely can.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I love that for you in the position that you're in, because I think that, hopefully we're doing a lot better job with making sure athletes are fueling themselves. I have a friend that she works at UCLA, and like, she's awesome, and she works with like all of the female sports teams. And so just knowing that people like her, and I'm sure there's tons of others, but that that they're seeing this at the collegiate level, they're seeing this in pro sports, and hopefully we're seeing more of this in high school and middle school, and just with all females and all athletes in general, right?
Mhm.
I think that's
Yeah,
so important.
and I guess one other thing I would just touch on, which really kind of encompasses everything that we've been talking about, is just getting more in tune with your body. And I feel like I've always been someone that's been pretty in tune with my body, but um, it just further demonstrates to me, like, listening to, taking everything that your body's telling you, and then really listening to it as to what's going on and how you can adjust it, either for whatever you're trying to achieve, right? So even something as simple, which is something we haven't even touched on, but like bowel movements, like paying attention to your bowel movements, and that gives you that gives you insight into what's going on with your body, right? So um yeah, just kind of, that's something that I'd have to say that's been really great, is to just continuously learning about my body. And um something that I know you focus on, and that's a lot. That's, I feel like being a PT, I've have a very holistic approach. So um it's been great to just kind of get more confident in myself, to then now help the people that I'm helping get more confident with that.
Yeah, I love it. As I always say, the ultimate, sign of actually truly learning, these things, is to be able to teach it, right? And so for you to be able to like pay it forward and help, these other people, I mean, that's not only amazing for you, but obviously it's amazing for them as well, right?
Yeah.
So love that. All right, so I definitely want to respect your time here. I know, as we could say when we had breakfast that day, I'm like, we could probably sit here and chat it up all day. But let's transition here into. I always ask this question because I'm always curious to know, and you might have to think back a little bit on this one. But if somebody's on the fence, right, about working with a coach, or maybe they just had their first consult, or maybe they had a bad experience before, or whatever, right? How did you, like, if you're thinking back to hiring a coach? I mean, I don't know if I was like the first person you saw on Instagram or whatever, but like, I mean, how do you reach out to a complete stranger, somebody that you do not know, right?
Mhm.
I mean, most of the clients that I work with are like referrals, right? But how, I mean, where was the headspace at? Where was the mindset there? And like, for somebody that is kind of searching through the Instagram worlds and trying to find a coach that they resonate with and want to work with one-on-one, like, what's the advice?
Yeah, so I kind of have multiple, I would say I have a couple of different things that say to that. So first off, in terms of even getting a coach, because again, like I said, I'm someone that has spent my whole academic career and professional career invested in, especially holistic approach to sports medicine. So not only modern medicine, but also, incorporating like nutrition and things like that, right? So I would have thought of myself as very well versed on it prior, but it came to a point where, no, I need help, right? I need someone else to help me. And I one time was working with a friend who, he was helping me out, I think with my ankle or something. And I don't know what I said to him, but I said something along the lines of like, yeah, is this weird that I like, or no, I said something like, whenever I get injured, it's as if I only see red, and like I don't know what to do. But this is my life. How do I not know what to do? And he said, he looked at me and he goes, well, what do you expect? Even Tiger Woods has a coach. And I was like, wait a second. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, even the best of the best have people that help them correct their form, correct their, mechanics. Like, and I was like, duh. Like, why did that not even occur to me? Like, everyone needs a little help. You can only see what is inside your face and like, or what's inside your head, right? And we get inside our head sometimes, and you need that outside perspective. Even me, sometimes treating, working with some people, sometimes I need to reach out to a colleague and say, hey, what am I missing? Because there's something, right? Like, I'm so zoned in on this. What am I missing? So I think just understanding that everyone could use a little help in some shape or form, right? And then in terms of reaching out to you, that's probably one of the most easiest things for me. I would have to say, everyone that knows me as a person, I'm kind of known as a bit of a nomad. So, like, reaching out to a random stranger is not a challenge to me at all. But because, again, I am, I know a lot of people in this world. And what really stuck out to me with you was, like I said, just your overall messaging. Was your messaging of like treating the person as a person, and addressing more than just, yeah, like, here's a template kind of thing. And it just seems like you actually care, but I do have to say, you do have a way of delivering stuff like very cut and dry, but I also respect that, because you won't like necessarily beat around the bush. You'll just be like, look, you got to do it for this long or you can't do it, kind of thing, which now I know what it feels like when I tell people that. So I now understand their frustration, but like, I appreciate that about you. But yeah, ultimately it was your approach to the person as a person. That's what really made me reach out to you. Um, but yeah, like I said, reaching out to somebody randomly, it's actually not that challenge for me. But I will have to say, if you are afraid, or if you are have any apprehensions about reaching out to someone, just do it. Just reach out to them. If it's not a fit, it's not a fit, but make sure that it's a fit for you, right? If you're not feeling the person, if you're not trusting the person, if they don't seem to be in line with what you truly want, move on, but make the step of reaching out. That's the biggest step, really, I would have to
Yeah.
say.
No, I love that. I think that's amazing. As when we met, right, and we talked about that for the majority of the conversation, which was like that human connection piece and that building relationships and how important that was, and and what we do in our practices here. So I love that. And I think, like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, like, and very openly, when people reach out to me, I mean, I tell them, and I ask them, like, here, you can have these resources, because
Yeah.
like, what I would tell people is, look, if you're looking to hire a coach, follow them on social media for like 3 months, right? Sip on the Kool-Aid, as I say, right? Like, follow their content, read their posts, all of that. And then if like, that's step one. If you like that, then from there, send them a DM or an email or whatever, and ask them for like 5 testimonials, or 5 people that you can actually like
Yeah.
ask questions to,
Yeah.
like, actually talk to, right? Real
Yeah.
people.
That's a
Because
really that's great. I think that's really great. Yeah.
I mean, anybody can create fake testimonials or whatever. So see if you
Yeah.
can actually talk to, like, I don't know, like 3 of their clients that they've worked with, like, real people.
And
And
that's one thing that I'd say about you is that I've never felt just like a number. I've never felt just like someone that, yeah, you handed out a template to and you don't even know me. You know what I mean? So I think that's the difference.
well, thank you. I appreciate that, because it's definitely something that, I mean, I know you as well, right? It's something that's like super important to us and our practice and what we do. So I appreciate that. And I think that, like, it just goes back to, like, the importance of one-on-one and, like, individualized coaching. Like, how could a meal plan or a template or a one size fits all approach meet you where you are in this journey,
Yeah.
right?
And I know that's stuff that we've talked about, even for me personally, like my grapplings with, you know, modern day, how people work, right? Like just passing out templates and things like that. And I'm the same way, where I just, there's, I just, it philosophically, I need to have a connection, not necessarily have a connection, but I want to make sure that it's actually addressing what the person needs. Right. So I appreciate that about you, that it's not a one size fits all model. And granted, some people can get away with that, right? Like they can get away with, um, following some sort of template or program for a bit, but also understanding that most people need specificity, right?
Yeah. I mean, different things work for different people, right? So if you follow a meal plan or a template and like it works for you, and works for you means that like you're sticking with that for the rest of your life and you feel great and you look great and you perform great and all those things, I'm clapping my hands for you.
Right.
I want you to find success in whatever works best for you,
Right.
right? But if you're trying things repeatedly and not accomplishing things, not sticking with it, constantly, starting and stopping, then you've just got to be honest with yourself and realize like all of these things that you're trying to do and trying to follow, these cookie cutter boxes of a diet you're trying to fit yourself into, it's not working, and you need to individualize your approach. Like you need to meet
Yeah.
yourself where you are in your own journey, which is different than everyone else. And you've got to like just literally create habit 1, habit 2, habit 3, and like start the process of stacking habits and building confidence and building back up that like integrity with yourself and following through with the things that you say that you're going to do.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
So love it. Awesome. Well, this has been great. I knew it was going to be a good podcast. I'm excited to,
I hope it's good. I hope you get something good out of it. I don't know.
it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Lots of little nuggets here for everybody. Well, cool. So final thoughts, I guess. First off, Joelle, where can people, I'm pushing Joelle to get on social media more and start a podcast and all this stuff. So where can people find you at? Are you most active on, I guess, Instagram, would you say?
I'd say Instagram. Yeah, I've recently been thinking about Twitter, but I'm more of a visual person, so I'm feeling Instagram. You can find me at Joelle Muro, so JoelleMuro. That's my Instagram. Yeah, follow me. And if you have any questions about getting into the sports world, I'm in soccer, so that's my world. But I know plenty of people. Don't ever hesitate to reach out. Or if you're in the Jersey area, I'm currently here, so let me know. I just realized also I'm wearing our Be True shirt that we got, so I thought that's kind of cool. Good to
Nice.
meet you. Just realized that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's
Very cool. Love it. Love it. Very cool. Hey, real quick, one other question I had. So, and I know you've kind of been in and out of there over the years here, but for anybody that's like interested in, we're coming into a new year, right? And so I think like the whole human connection piece and building relationships and like community is a huge part of people finding success in this new year. The team iCoach Nutrition Facebook group, right? If you search for that on Facebook, it's our kind of team group, if you will. There it has all the clients that I'm currently working with and that I've worked with in the past, and then anybody else that's just kind of interested in iCoach. What's like the top thing? It's a free group, right? So request to join. You can I'll add you in there. What do you think like the number one thing people would get out of that group would be?
I think just community in general. I know you and I have talked about it before in terms of just treating each other like, humans, and treating each other. I mean, nothing beats having a sense of support, right? Like especially in these days, everybody could use a little sense of support. Anybody can use just a little positivity. And I think that's something that I know I always try to do regardless of whatever I'm doing. And that's what those kind of groups are, I think, best for, is that um, it's a place where you feel, you're with your peers. It's a place where you feel it's a safe place. It's a safe place to ask questions, to post your videos, to give each other some feedback, to give each other positive little notes for the day. Yeah, right now, who can't take more of that? Who can't use more of that the other day?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think community is key, right?
It's definitely key. Yeah. And I think like just, like, so for those listening, like clients that I work with one-on-one, they'll go in there and like they'll share like what's called their post-call update. And so I think like for you to be able to go into that group, read post call updates from clients that I'm working with, and just like what's going to happen is you're not going to feel alone, right? You're not going to feel like you're the only one struggling with this thing. Like you're going to start to realize, oh wow, like there's a lot of people that are struggling with this or that. And hopefully you can actually start to learn through reading these post call updates. You can learn from their takeaways, right? From our coaching calls, you can learn from what their focuses are and how they advance kind of week to week
Yeah.
to week there. So
Yeah.
lots of value in there, and whether it's from an educational standpoint with the Facebook Lives, or whether it's just from being able to have a community like Joelle said. So
Yeah.
love that. Love it.
Question. I have a question. Am I still the only person that's done a video?
No,
Ah,
there's
dang it.
yeah. No, there's actually it's so funny. There's some clients I work with that they're like, can I just do video? I'd much prefer to do a video. And I'm like, yes, please do video. Definitely way more clients, they do written, but yeah, anytime that I can get people to do video, I'm like, yes, go for it.
For a while, I was the only one that did a video, right? I
Yeah,
thought.
you were.
Yeah.
I think you were like the first and only for a while, for sure.
Yeah. I
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, not
Okay,
shy.
cool.
I appreciate it. Awesome. Well, Joelle, it's been great